Here's how Moon Knight connects to the Eternals, Black Knight, and Blade. After the holiday hijinks of Hawkeye and the arachnid antics of Spider-Man No Way Home, darkness is descending on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But before Doctor Strange descends into the multiverse of madness this May, Moon Knight will make his triumphant debut on Disney Plus on March 30th. On Monday, Disney and Marvel unveiled the first poster, description, and trailer for this highly anticipated, very dark-looking series starring Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. Now, according to the official description, the series follows Stephen Grant, a mild-mannered gift shop employee who becomes plagued with blackouts and memories of another life. Stephen discovers he has dissociative identity disorder and shares a body with mercenary Marc Spector. As Stephen/Mark's enemies converge upon them, they must navigate their complex identities while thrust into a deadly mystery among the powerful gods of Egypt. As we explored in our trailer breakdown, Moon Knight looks like it's going to introduce us to a far darker side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a tale that's equal parts supernatural horror and psychological thriller. But naturally, given how nothing truly stands alone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we can't help but look for connections to other Phase 4 properties and beyond. And wouldn't you know it, our very own Rosie Knight has theories about how Moon Knight connects to Eternals, Black Knight, Blade, and even a highly anticipated superhero team-up. Now we're going to break it all down for you in just a moment, but if you prefer to read all about it, we've got you covered over on Nerdist.com. However, if this comes to pass, it could be considered a spoiler. And we'll also have to spoil elements of Eternals in discussing this, so if you haven't seen that movie yet, now's your chance to make a break for it. Alright, let's get into it, shall we? Let's begin with one of the biggest changes that Moon Knight makes to the character. In the comics, Marc Spector, not Stephen Grant, was the primary way into the character for readers. Over the years, Marc Spector developed dissociative identity disorder with 3 distinct identities, or alters as they're sometimes referred to. Marc Spector is the aforementioned mercenary, the muscle of the operation. Stephen Grant was a wealthy financier who paid for all of those expensive crime-fighting gadgets and the dry cleaning bill to get all those bloodstains out of his nice white suit. And of course, there's Jake Lockley, the streetwise cab driver who kept his ears to the ground to get information. The question of whether or not we'll see the Jake Lockley alter remains a giant mystery, but the show's most eyebrow-raising change thus far is that Stephen Grant appears to be the primary alter through which we'll experience the world of Moon Knight. Rather than being a Wall Street billionaire business boy, Stephen works in a museum gift shop as we saw depicted in the trailer. But with this new job comes new opportunities to create connections to the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe. Given that Moon Knight's powers are derived from Khonshu, the Egyptian god of the moon who we glimpsed in the trailer, it makes narrative sense to put him in close proximity to all manner of Egyptian artifacts. In the trailer, we see Stephen walk into the National Gallery, an art museum in London. But once inside, we see it's very clearly the open-plan gift shop at the British Museum. But given that the British Museum has a reputation for pilfering artifacts from all over the world, maybe the National Gallery felt like a safer choice for this character who's supposed to be the hero of this story. But confusing exterior and interior shots aside, this instantly forges a connection with 2 other major Marvel characters that we met in Eternals. I'm talking about Cersei and Dane Whitman, both of whom work at London's Natural History Museum some 2 miles away from the National Gallery. Now, as Rosie Knight explains in her article, she has worked at multiple galleries and museums, and it's a small, low-paid world with a lot of crossover. So chances are that if these characters worked in what's essentially spitting distance from each other in the same relatively insular field, they likely know each other and/or have visited the other's place of work. But geographical proximity does not a theory make by itself. The bigger connection here is the apparent influx of magical artifacts making their way to London museums. As we saw in the trailer, it looks like Stephen will pilfer some artifacts belonging to Khonshu, which the Egyptian deity needs him to find so he can fully become the Moon Knight. And considering that creepy jackal creature stalking Stephen in the halls of the museum, he's gonna need all the help he can get. Meanwhile, over at the Natural History Museum, Dane Whitman is dealing with another magical item of massive importance to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. During the post-credit scene of Eternals, Dane is standing in what appears to be his office at the Natural History Museum. He opens a box containing the Ebony Blade, a powerful magical sword forged from a meteorite by Merlin and Sir Percy of Scandia, the latter of whom just so happens to be Dane Whitman's ancestor. Now, in case the Latin phrase mors mihi lucrum, or death is my reward, inscribed on the case wasn't enough of a giveaway, the sinister whispers hissing at Dane as he draws close to this weapon should tell you this is a cursed artifact. Yes, it imbues the wielder with nigh immortality and the powers of the Black Knight, but it also warps the mind and twists the soul. Considering Marc Spector's murderous impulses and how freaked out Stephen Grant is when he wakes up to find himself wielding a gun in a stolen ice cream truck on a German mountain road, I'd say these two will have plenty in common in the internal struggle department. And while it may not be enough for a round table, these two knights could prove to be exactly what the other needs. Stephen Grant will likely continue to need answers even after he defeats Arthur Harrow's crocodile cult, and Dane Whitman will need help grappling with his family's cursed legacy and rescuing his girlfriend from the cosmic judgment of the celestial Arasham. Look, it's never easy meeting a significant other's parents, but even more so when he's a goddamn celestial. However, as we know from Eternal's post-credit scene, they're gonna have some help. Before Dane can grab the ebony blade, he's stopped by another blade. We hear Mahershala Ali's voice ask him, "Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?" That's right, the Daywalker himself could play an integral role in these intersecting stories of the Black Knight and Moon Knight as the MCU continues to explore its supernatural side. And this even connects to WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as well. Remember the Darkhold? It's that ancient grimoire of chaos magic that Agatha Harkness kept in her magical murder basement, and it now belongs to Wanda Maximoff. In the comics, that tome of chaos magic was responsible for creating vampires. And what is Blade? He's half a vampire. Now, the Darkhold itself was created by the Elder God Chthon, and the comics suggest the Elder Gods were also responsible for creating werewolves. Now let's flash back to Moon Knight's very first appearance in 1975's Werewolf by Night number 32. Old Moony Boy hunted down Jack Russell, Marvel's eponymous Werewolf by Night, for the staggeringly low price of $10,000. And yes, that's about $52,000 if you adjust for inflation, but I don't know, that seems like a bargain for hunting down and capturing a literal werewolf. What would you do it for? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, the plot thickens when you consider the revelation in the King in Black Black Knight one-shot that Moon Knight's patron deity Khonshu isn't actually an Egyptian god. Rather, he was another elder god, a primal being of chaos who endured through the millennia and was adopted into Egyptian folklore. So what does all of this mean? Well, basically all three of these characters, Blade, Black Knight, and Moon Knight, they're connected by chaos magic and its effects on the world around them. Blade is clearly aware of this, given that this half-vampire hero is wandering around London stopping people from grabbing these magical MacGuffins in the nick of time. Dane Whitman's about to grapple with his family's tainted legacy, and Stephen Grant is going to become the avatar of a vengeful Egyptian god or even an elder god. And with chaos magic, the Darkhold, and Wanda Maximoff playing a major role in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, things are only going to get spookier and more chaotic in the MCU. And that could bring this unlikely trio even closer together, especially if vampires, werewolves, ancient Egyptian monsters, and other things that go bump in the night are just running around. Now, with all of that said, there are two major ways this could happen if they follow comic book lore. The first of which is MI13, Britain's secret agency for paranormal threats. In the comics, Dane Whitman and Blade have teamed up together to battle all manner of supernatural creatures, including as a part of this shadowy government organization. And with S.H.I.E.L.D. basically disbanded, there is plenty of room in the MCU for another shadowy government organization to rise up and provide plot hooks for our heroes to go on missions to defeat the undead. And who knows, maybe this is how they're going to bring that meme panel to life of Moon Knight shaking down that nerd Dracula for the money that he owes him. Now, another avenue that seems far likelier given the upcoming video game of the same name is the Midnight Suns. First appearing in 1992's Ghost Rider number 31, the Midnight Suns were a loose alliance of Marvel's heroes and anti-heroes assembled to defeat otherworldly and supernatural threats. The fact that they could incorporate characters like Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, and even Werewolf by Night, who's going to be played in an upcoming Marvel Halloween special on Disney Plus by Gael Garcia Bernal, makes this team-up not feel just like a possibility, but an eventuality. And while all of my previous hopes have been dashed on the rocky shores of reality, this could also lead the Midnight Suns to eventually battling Mephisto. And I know what you're thinking, but shut up. If this were to happen anywhere, it would be in a Midnight Suns series. Basically, after Las Vegas was destroyed during the events of Secret Empire, because comics, Doctor Strange magically rebuilt it, which had the unfortunate side effect of turning the City of Sin into a literal hell on Earth. Mephisto essentially took control of Las Vegas for himself. Now, one thing leads to another, and Doctor Strange has to assemble a new version of the Midnight Suns, including Blade and Moon Knight, so they can defeat the Lord of Hell himself. Now, as we saw in Avengers number 34, Moon Knight came up with an elaborate plot to murder Mephisto using Mjolnir and planned to scatter the demon's ashes across the cosmos to prevent him from reforming. Now, of course, Moon Knight's own patron god Khonshu had different plans, which ties back into that whole Elder God and chaos magic thing we mentioned earlier. The point is that if Marvel continues to plumb the depths of its supernatural side, Dane Whitman, Stephen Grant, and Blade will find their paths crossing sooner rather than later. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dane Whitman, Blade, or both of them make an appearance in a post-credit scene in Moon Knight Season 1's final episode. Now, given Marvel's propensity to use one project to tee up future projects, it certainly seems within the realm of possibility at the bare minimum. But with all of that said, it's important to remember that for the time being, these are all just theories. So take them with a grain of salt, or if you're Marc Spector, take them with thousands of grains of sand that you keep around your bed at night to make sure you're not accidentally sleepwalking and doing murders. But in the meantime, folks, we'll keep you covered with theories, deep dives, and all manner of MCU goodness as we count down the days to Moon Knight's premiere on March 30th. For now, though, tell us, what do you think of this theory? Do you want to see a Midnight Suns crossover in the MCU? And what other MCU characters should join this magical supergroup?
My name's Abraham Whistler.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.